48 seats stretched over 5 phases. Maharashtra will be one of the most keenly watched states this election season. But as the first phase of polls draws near, seat-sharing ties between the Aghadi alliance partners in Maharashtra seems to be in limbo. Congress leaders stormed out of a meeting at Sharad Pawar's residence over Sangli and Bhiwandi. A senior Maharashtra Congress leader, Sanjay Nirupam, has quit over the Mumbai Northwest seat. Here's the latest on the Maharambul.
There's no end to the fight over seats among the Maha Vikas Aghadi alliance in Maharashtra. Sangli and Bhiwandi continues to be the big sticking points. Sena UBT has unilaterally announced wrestler Chandrahar Patil as its candidate from Sangli. Congress is also staking claim to the seat and is pitching Vishal Patil, grandson of former Maharashtra CM Vasant Dada Patil.
सांगली और जो बाकी आज जो बची थी 4 जगह वो आज मैंने उसका ऐलान किया है, डिक्लेयर की है। और जिस तरीके से शिवसैनिकों ने कांग्रेस का प्रचार शुरू किया है, मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि आज या कल से कांग्रेस भी सांगली से लेकर सारी जगह पर शिवसेना के जहां पर प्रत्याशी हैं उनका प्रचार शुरू करेंगे।
In Bhiwandi, it's the NCP, Sharad Chandra Pawar, and the Congress that are at loggerheads. Sharad Pawar's faction wants to field Balu Mama. Local Congress cadre is asking party leadership to not buckle under the pressure of allies. There was heated argument over these stalled seats at a meeting held at Sharad Pawar's residence on Wednesday night. Sources tell India Today that Congress leaders stormed out. Sena UBT and NCP SP are also refusing to budge. Senior Maharashtra Congress leader Sanjay Nirupam has also quit the party over not being given the Mumbai Northwest seat. He says that Sena UBT is dominating seat-sharing talks. Meanwhile, the ruling Mahayuti alliance seems to have ironed out differences. Seats for the state, barring Mumbai, have been finalized.
In 2014 and 2019, the Bharatiya Janata Party, Shiv Sena combined won 41 out of the state's 48 seats. But the political landscape of Maharashtra has changed drastically now. The new political realignments have not been tasted yet. Both Eknath Shinde and Ajit Pawar may face the ire of traditional supporters for their coups. One thing is for certain, Maharashtra will be a cracker of an election. Sahil Joshi in Mumbai for India Today.
So the Maharashtra Game of Thrones is arguably the most complicated battleground state in the Lok Sabha elections of 2024. Which way could the political winds blow, and which of these factions can potentially have how much support on polling day? Let me try and give you a sense. So we've worked with the India Today Data Intelligence Unit to try and draw out 2 different scenarios about how the vote share figures for Maharashtra could pan out in this election. I'll show you the baseline vote share figures to begin with so that you have some sense of where these parties start out from. So the BJP in the last couple of elections has a vote share around 28%. So in the high 20s, that's the BJP's own starting vote share. 3 out of 10 voters typically tend to vote for the BJP in a Lok Sabha election. The Congress's vote share, which used to be in the early 20s earlier, is now somewhere around 16%. The Congress hasn't split much. To some extent, the likes of Ashok Chavan have gone, but the Congress, unlike the NCP and the Shiv Sena, is largely intact at about 16% vote share from the last election. What they get this time is different, but they stand at the starting base at 16%. The NCP, when it was unified, had a 16% vote share. The Shiv Sena had a 24% vote share. The AIMIM had about a 1% vote share. So those are the figures when things hadn't fragmented in Maharashtra politics. From there on, if I look at the seat share numbers from the last elections, the BJP had 23 seats, the Shiv Sena had 18, the NCP 4, the Congress 1. You know, this is really a Congress-NCP stronghold in past elections. Now the Congress at 1, the NCP at 4, the Shiv Sena united at 18, and the BJP at 23. Now we'll map out 2 scenarios. So the NCP and the Shiv Sena both broke up, and if both the Ajit Pawar faction of the NCP and the Shinde faction of the Shiv Sena enjoy equal support from their starting points, then what happens? So if you just do a simple arithmetic, the NDA starting point then is 51.3, 35.6 in the last elections as per actuals if you rearrange. The moment Uddhav Thackeray leaves the NDA, then the NDA goes down by 17.6%, the India Alliance goes up by 17.6%. Then the moment Shinde leaves the MVA, then the BJP goes up by 8.8%, the India Alliance comes down by 8.8%, because the party of Uddhav Thackeray split, leading to this change. Then when Ajit Pawar leaves the MVA, the NDA goes up by 5.9% and the India Alliance comes down by 5.9%. So if Ajit Pawar and Eknath Shinde have roughly the same kind of support as Uddhav Thackeray and Sharad Pawar, then the vote share percentages stack like this in the Lok Sabha elections: 48.4 for the NDA, 38.5 for the India Alliance. So a pretty comfortable lead of about 10 points for the NDA over the India Alliance. This is if both these factions, the Shinde faction and the Ajit Pawar faction, have equal support as the legacy parties. However, if there is support, and that's where this conversation gets so interesting, because there's a lot of talk of latent sympathy among supporters. If that is the case, then how could things be? So the calculation here is, if the Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray Sena gets 2/3 of the support of the Shiv Sena and the NCP of Sharad Pawar gets 1/3 of the support, then what could the numbers look like? Then it's 43.4 for the NDA versus 43.5 for the India Alliance. Then it becomes far, far tighter if it emerges that Uddhav Thackeray has a lot of sympathy and support, and Sharad Pawar also has a lot of support. So Rajdeep, this is really what it comes down to. And nobody really knows. Will votes get equally divided from the old Sena and the old NCP? Or will the old guard have the support and sympathy? Or will the new guard carry the day?
You know, it's fascinating. Because you don't have a benchmark to measure these numbers against, simply because all these factions are broken apart. NCP is broken apart, Shiv Sena is broken apart. You're assuming 2/3 will go with one side, 1/3 will go with the other. The fact is, Rahul, politics is not just about arithmetic, it's about chemistry. And I think the critical question is, will, for example, a BJP voter in Western Maharashtra, who has always stood up to the NCP, now be ready to vote for an Ajit Pawar? Would, for example, a Shiv Sena voter, who has always been a Hindutvavadi, be ready to vote for a Congress candidate in his constituency? I think that is critical, the transfer of votes to a candidate who's contesting from a different party. That's why Maharashtra is so unpredictable. How do you predict what feeling that Hindutvavadi voter has, who may well feel that I've been betrayed with the Shiv Sena joining this MVA, I don't want to necessarily vote for a Congress candidate? Or the BJP, who has been standing up to the Pawars, now says, I don't want to vote for an Ajit Pawar or any NCP faction. I think that's going to be critical, which is why seat sharing has been so difficult. Because in every seat, the calculation has to be made. Who will transfer whose vote to whom? I'll give you the example of Mumbai Northwest, which has become so controversial because Sanjay Nirupam has just quit the party. He was the candidate last time round. He got about 3 lakh votes, but he lost by an equally large margin to a Shiv Sena candidate. But the Shiv Sena that time was in alliance with the BJP. Now what's happened there? The Shiv Sena UBT, Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, has put up a candidate, ironically the son of the previous MP, who has now joined the Shinde Sena. Now that's getting confusing. He's a new candidate. The question therefore is, who does the BJP put up there? Do they give that seat to a Shinde Sena candidate and fight the Marathi vote bank in a way? Or do you give the seat to a North Indian like a Sanjay Nirupam and hope that he can bring in the North Indian vote? You see, these calculations are going on, Rahul, in seat by seat. I'll give you one more final example. There's a seat, fascinating seat of Baramati, where the battle is Supriya Sule on one side versus Sunetra Pawar on the other, as they call it, Tai versus Vahini in Marathi. But there, you've got one of the constituencies there called Indapur, which was a Congress bastion. The Congress leader there was being targeted by the NCP. He leaves the Congress, joins the BJP. Guess what? Ajit Pawar joins hands with the BJP. Now, does he go ahead and support Sunetra Pawar, given his animus Harshvardhan Patil, I'm referring to Ajit Pawar's wife? These are the calculations seat by seat in Maharashtra. I don't think it's happening anywhere else in the country, Rahul. Because in other parts of the country, there's a relative clarity. It's either bipolar or existing parties. But when two major regional parties have broken apart, Maharashtra, Rahul, to me, looks like a mirror cracked. And it's difficult to know which way, who will actually pick up the shards of glass that are broken.
You know, the one example that comes to my mind is when in Delhi, the Aam Aadmi Party was just emerging on the scene. Nobody, from a polling perspective, had any actual calculation of where they'll end up. People thought 6, 8, 9 seats. They ended up at 35 or so in the first election. And
no,
then
true, but Rahul, even in Delhi, you know, the fact is there you had a new player.
Yeah.
Here you have existing players.
But you don't know who's strong. Is Sharad Pawar stronger? Is Ajit Pawar stronger?
You see,
is Uddhav Thackeray stronger? Is Eknath Shinde stronger?
That's right. And when you said 2/3, 1/3, for example, 2/3 of Uddhav Thackeray, if they go one way, or 1/3
No,
of Sharad.
2/3 of Uddhav Thackeray and 2/3 of Sharad Pawar.
That's right. But the point is, even if they want to support, let's say, Sharad Pawar, if in their constituency, at that moment, there's a Shiv Sena candidate or there's a Congress candidate, would they be as willing, particularly a Shiv Sena? NCP and Congress at least have been united in the past, fought elections together. Shiv Sena and BJP have fought elections together. But what if there is a Congress candidate there? Then where does the Shiv Sena voter go? So I think these are the calculations that will decide what will be, I think, one of the most tightly contested elections, not just Lok Sabha, but even more chaotic in Vidhan Sabha, because the moment I don't get a ticket, I become an independent. What's happening in Maharashtra? I don't get a ticket from the party that I had fought with or was part of. I say, okay, I'll find another party which is willing to give me a ticket. That's happening across the state at the moment.
Sahil Joshi joins us now. He heads up Mumbai and Maharashtra Bureau. Sahil and his team are on the ground. Sahil, Rajdeep giving his analysis on how Maharashtra looks like a mirror cracked. You're on the ground. We've got these two scenarios. One is that the Eknath Shinde Sena and the Ajit Pawar faction have roughly equal support as the legacy parties they come out from. The other is that the legacy parties have about 2/3 of the support and only 1/3 gets transferred or carried forward to Ajit Pawar and to Eknath Shinde. Which of the two scenarios do you think is more likely, or do you have a third scenario of your own understanding?
Well, both of these scenarios are likely, but I think it will change from constituency to constituency. For the simple reason is because there will be different scenarios in various constituencies. For an example, if there is a candidate of the BJP and if the Shiv Sena UBT candidate is taking over the BJP candidate, that is a place where we'll have to wait and see whether the Shiv Sena voters, will they be willing to vote for the BJP? Even if there is a Shinde fraction, will they choose the Shiv Sena of Uddhav Thackeray, and that split won't happen. So there is a possibility where more than 2/3 of the people might vote for Shiv Sena UBT. And vice versa. If, say, for an example, if there is a Shinde candidate in one of the constituencies and the opposing candidate is from the NCP or, say, for an example, from the Congress, that is a time the 1/3 of the Shinde candidates may increase, and voters may increase. Shiv Sena voters may choose the bow and arrow, which the symbol which is now been allocated to Eknath Shinde. So, there will be various permutation and combinations. Right now, what we can see is that there are at least 5 constituencies where, 8 constituencies where Eknath Shinde Shiv Sena and Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena are going to be at loggerheads, where we will exactly know how the split has happened in the Shiv Sena vote. Secondly, I was looking at the numbers. My perception about the numbers is that we have taken a base of CSDS survey, where we have calculated the Modi factor in voting of 2019. But there is a base vote available in Maharashtra of 2014, where all the political parties fought the assembly elections separately, and that is where we can see that Shiv Sena's actual vote share is 19.3, which clearly voted against the BJP, and they were clearly demarcated as the Shiv Sena voters, and those are the voters who do not like BJP. So are they willing to go with Eknath Shinde is going to be the bigger question. I was speaking to one of the Shiv Sena UBT leaders the other day. For them, this election is not only for winning seats, but also to understand that how many voters they have managed to retain with themselves, to take on the Shinde and BJP alliance in upcoming assembly elections. So for them also, it is going to be a litmus test, and that's why this election becomes so interesting. Now, Rajdeep was mentioning about Baramati constituency. It's not only the NCP voters, it's also about the people who left NCP or the Congress party to join the BJP because they were being, according to them, they had some issues with Ajit Pawar's politics in Baramati constituency or in the Pune districts or in the western Maharashtra. Now, they are the people who are with the BJP, but they don't get along with Ajit Pawar. Now, what are they going to do about it? That is also going to decide a lot of things. So, it's not only going to be the fraction vote of the Shiv Sena and that of NCP, but also those voters, those leaders who have left NCP and Congress and have joined hands with the BJP because of the internal party issues. What they are also going to do is going to be the important part. The last important thing which I think is that this is the time when, normally in Maharashtra, it's assigned vote share. It's a loyal vote share of all the political parties. This is the first time there will be at least 30% votes, which will be the floating votes. We don't know where those votes are going to go to. The Congress votes, which is a base in, say, Northwest constituency. Sanjay Nirupam got some 2.75 lakh votes in Northwest constituency. Those voters are not of Sanjay Nirupam. Those are the Congress voters. That is the base of the MVA in that particular constituency. The additional votes which Shiv Sena will bring in on the table, that is going to decide the fate of MVA in Maharashtra. So that's why this election there will be a lot of permutation combinations, and that is how it becomes more interesting.
It's interesting or it's a nightmare. Sanjay Kumar, if you're a cephalogist, it's a nightmare because when CSDS does its post-poll study and you're working with small bases, you really don't know how much of what you're picking up in your sample extends to the rest of the state, and therefore, would you say that Maharashtra is arguably the most complex, the trickiest state in this entire election?
No, absolutely, Rahul. I fully agree that this is going to be the trickiest, precisely because, when any pollster, when they do the polls and when you try to project seat based on the vote share estimate, there has to be a base, and the base is the last Lok Sabha election or the assembly election. Now the nature of party has changed completely if you compare it with the last assembly election or the Lok Sabha election. Two parties have got divided into two parties. And we don't know which party has how much of support base. So in order to build that what we call the base file, how much vote do you assign to the two factions of Shiv Sena or the two factions of NCP? So you're right, this is going to be a nightmare for all the pollsters in Maharashtra because there are lots and lots of factions. Finally, my own sense is that these factions will stand into alliances, but still, making an estimate of vote share, converting vote share into seats is going to be a very, very difficult task for Maharashtra. And I think, Rahul, it is also a tricky task for the voters now because voters may be equally confused now in Maharashtra. Which Shiv Sena to vote for, which NCP to vote for.
And I'm not even mentioning VBA of Prakash Ambedkar because the moment, Sahil, you look at that, there are so many seats in the last election where the percentage of votes that the VBA candidate got was more than the difference between the winner and the runner-up. In Nanded, for example, it's 14.7, whereas the gap was only 43.1 versus 39.6. So they could really split the vote as well. Would that largely damage the India alliance, or do you think in different seats it cuts different ways?
Well, it will be definitely different seats and will be different ways because specifically if you talk about Nanded now, the VBA is not going to be the important factor there in Nanded because Ashok Chavan himself has now crossed over to the BJP. The Congress was hoping on Ashok Chavan to contest, and that seat in MVA tally was A+ seat till the time Ashok Chavan was part of the Congress party. Now Ashok Chavan himself has gone to BJP. So the VBA factor doesn't matter anymore in Nanded because according to the BJP now that seat becomes very clear and easy to win for them because the main leader is now with them. But the VBA factor, for an example, a lot of times this has happened that VBA was more banking on support of Jarange Patil, the Maratha Maratha reservation activist who had garnered a lot of support among the low landholder Maratha community. And he has decided not to support any particular political party. Prakash Ambedkar was desperately trying hard to have an alliance with Jarange Patil, which he has refused, and he has also said that he is not going to play any political card in this. Prakash Ambedkar's vote share in 2019 election also had a vote share because of MIM's alliance with the VBA. Asaduddin Owaisi and Prakash Ambedkar, formed this alliance and created, had almost 6.92% of the vote share in Maharashtra that time. This time there is no MIM with VBA. There is no Jarange Patil, the Maratha activist, with VBA. So Prakash Ambedkar is going to be on his own. So that's why I have doubts whether VBA will be able to make that much of impact which we saw in 2019. This time the election is going to be completely different. It is going to be mostly the bipolar election, and in that election it is going to be decided on whose side the voter on, specifically after the split. So that's why the VBA factor will not be important.
So remember, in the last elections there were 9 seats where the VBA candidate determined, quite like the AIMIM in Bihar for example, where the VBA candidate took away just enough to ensure that the NDA typically won. You're seeing Parbani, you're seeing Akola, you're seeing in Hingoli, Gadchiroli, Buldana, Sangli. The VBA candidate takes away enough votes to ensure that the NDA wins. So he acts very clearly as a vote cutter to favor the NDA. Now, I want to go across to Sanju Verma of the BJP. She's looking to this analysis, and there is, Sanju, and you understand data, a lot of uncertainty about Ajit Pawar and Eknath Shinde and how much of the party's vote. They brought the leaders with them, but how much of the vote share have they carried with them? What are your internal assessments telling you, Sanju?
You know, Rahul, you can torture data to arrive at a preconceived conclusion. Be that as it may, and since I do a lot of data crunching myself, I have this to say, and I've been, a Mumbaikar for the longest time that I can recall. There are very, few pertinent points which need to be taken cognizance of. First and foremost, Sharad Pawar's, NCP lost National Party status in April 2023. The original Sharad Pawar today stands far more debilitated than he has ever been. And don't forget that 73% of Sharad Pawar's 54 MLAs have either openly expressed dissent or crossed over to the Ajit Pawar faction. 73% again of Uddhav Thackeray's 56 MLAs a couple of months back have openly expressed dissent or have willy-nilly crossed over to the BJP. The limited point is this, that Uddhav Thackeray, his version of the Shiv Sena, has never crossed more than 16 or 17% in terms of vote share in assembly elections. True, he did get a 24% vote share in Lok Sabha 2019, but that was on the Modi factor. For instance, I remember nobody had heard of Arvind Sawant even in Lok Sabha 2014. He won in 2014 and 2019 from South Mumbai, and I am from South Mumbai, the Malabar Hill constituency where I reside. Nobody had heard कि अरविंद सावंत है कौन? अच्छा भाई कमल पर छाप लगाना है, मोदी जी को वोट देना है. We don't care who Arvind Sawant is. Now, unfortunately, Arvind Sawant has not even delivered. So it's a double whammy.
So are you saying, is that a subtle way of pitching that makes Sanju Verma the candidate don't really need an Arvind Sawant? Sanju Verma bhi jeet jayegi Kamal ki chhap pe. Is that the underlying message there, Sanju?
No, I'm not interested in contesting the Lok Sabha elections at this stage. But be that as it may, you guys always have to throw a googly at me. I don't know why. But anyway, that was a tad unexpected. But, the moot point is this, which I think Rajdeep should have said, and which I'm sure your colleague Sahil Joshi will understand. The nuances in Maharashtra are very important. We today have the Bahubali from the Nanded region, Ashok Chavan, with us. We today have the Bahubali from the Konkan region, Narayan Rane, with us, who joined us more than 2 to 3 years back. Then, from the, Bid region, we have Dhananjay Munde, who was earlier with Sharad Pawar and has now crossed over to the BJP Eknath Shinde faction. Then, don't forget that Sanjay Bhansore, when he decided to leave Sharad Pawar, that was a big body blow to Sharad Pawar, because Sanjay Bhansore is the Bahubali from the Latur region.
Okay.
And he's also now with the BJP.
So
last but not the least.
Yes.
Last but not the least, you have Aditi Tatkare and Sunil Tatkare, the Bahubalis of Raigad region, also with the BJP. So BJP ke
Okay.
paas
Let
Raigad ke
Mahesh
Bahubali
Chavan
hai,
of the
Nanded ke Bahubali
NCP
hai.
Sharad Pawar faction respond to this. Sanju Verma makes an important point that these aren't really parties organized like the BJP. these are parties that are largely driven by local satraps. The moment the local satrap leaves, the party structure in that seat weakens significantly, which is what the NDA is banking on, that they've got these bigwigs and they think that the bigwigs can move the votes with them, and that could be to your disadvantage on polling day.
Rahulji, good evening. Same thing was said last elections as well. In 2019, if you can recollect, people were saying that NCP will not get more than 10 to 15 seats. And all the satraps and everybody that time also was living the same way they are living
No, but
today.
Ajit Pawar was with you at that time. That's a big change, sir.
Yes, definitely that's a big change. But if you see the vote share and its popularity in Maharashtra, in terms of the vote share, it is not more than 2 to 4%. This is my own assessment. Whatever BJP has to say or Ajit Pawar faction has to say about it. This is one thing. Secondly, see, who orchestrated the split in the parties? It was BJP. BJP leaders have themselves admitted to the fact that they did it. Like if you remember the statement of Devendra Fadnavis, he used to say that I used to, change the dress and, at night we used to have the meetings with Eknath Shinde and all that stuff. So it would not be fair to say that these MLAs defected because they were unhappy with the leadership of NCP or Shiv Sena. So this is one thing. Secondly, people of Maharashtra look at it as a betrayal. And people of Maharashtra, if you look at the history, they don't like the betrayals or betrayal. This is one thing. There are multiple things which we are looking at. And the last thing, what I would like to mention here is we are not worried about future course because, see, it's the BJP who's worried. That is why they are orchestrating all the splits. Why they want the parties to be split.
Anand Dubey, the fact is that Uddhav Thackeray couldn't keep his party together. What then makes you confident that he'll be able to keep his voters together? Eknath Shinde was far more active in meeting local leaders, local karyakartas than the Thackerays ever were, and he might think that he's got not just the big leaders but also the voters.
Rahul ji, namaste. We don't want Bahubali's leaders. We have a good, popular and honest leaders. मैं आपको समझाता हूं राहुल जी एक सेकंड में कि ये जो आपने अभी आंकड़ा दिखाया कि 2019 में 28% वोट भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने पाया, 24% शिवसेना ने पाया और 16 पर कांग्रेस और राष्ट्रवादी है। 2024 में जब हम बैठे हैं तो यदि हम मान लेते हैं कि 28% बीजेपी बनी हुई है, कोई बात नहीं, उनका अधिकार है, उन्होंने काम किया होगा। जो 24%, 24% शिवसेना का, उसमें से चलिए एकनाथ शिंदे उनकी टीम चली गई, 2% उनको भी दिया, 22 पे आज भी हम कायम है। 16% कांग्रेस में कोई फूट नहीं, कोई स्प्लिट नहीं हुई, 16% उनका पकड़ लेते हैं। राष्ट्रवादी कांग्रेस पार्टी में स्प्लिट हुई, टूट हुई, 2% वहां से भी लोग निकले हैं, सिर्फ नेता गए हैं, वोटर नहीं गए। अगर आप इन तीनों का
आंकड़ा मिलाएंगे, आपको ये पता नहीं है ना कि वोटर गए कि नेता गए, वो तो 4 जून को ही पता चलेगा सर।
नहीं, बिल्कुल पता, यही तो बात है। हमें नहीं पता होगा, हम अपनी पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता हैं, हम अपनी पार्टी के नेता हैं, तो किसे पता होगा? जनता हमारे साथ है। अगर तीनों पार्टी का हम गणित बैठाएं
नहीं, पर दूसरी साइड पे मोदी जी भी हैं। All of this is at one level important, but the other side also has the face and the visage of Prime Minister Modi, who's a big factor in a Lok Sabha context.
राहुल भाई, मोदी is very popular leader, no problem. मोदी जी पूरे भारत में पॉपुलर होंगे। महाराष्ट्र में जिस प्रकार की गंदी राजनीति की शुरुआत उन्होंने करवाई है, उससे महाराष्ट्र की जनता खुश नहीं।
पूरे भारत में objection to this language. What do you mean?
Which language? Which language? Which language, Rahul ji?
वो कुछ नहीं, संजू वर्मा कुछ कह रही थी, but one by one, let's do it one by one. Let me put that question to Sahil. One second, Sahil Joshi, this point that Anand Dubey is making, that there is a certain discomfort amongst voters in Maharashtra with all this tod-phod that's happened. But the flip side is, will that reflect more in the Maharashtra assembly elections later in the year? Or will that be a factor in the Lok Sabha elections as well? Because in the Lok Sabha elections, ultimately for the BJP, Prime Minister Modi is on the ticket.
The beginning will be the Lok Sabha elections for sure, and our consecutive Mood of the Nation surveys have shown it multiple times since 2022. We have been doing every 6 months the Mood of the Nation survey, and we have seen the trend, how the trend was moving. And every time there used to be a new Mood of the Nation survey. If you remember, we used to predict that there will be a new partner with the BJP, and every time there was a new partner in the BJP. The first it was, of course, Eknath Shinde. The second time it was Ajit Pawar. The third time it was people like Ashok Chavan and others. So obviously, the arithmetic was not in favor of the BJP, and so obviously these partners needed to be, brought in together. Interestingly, just a while back, Kirit Somaiya, the anti-corruption crusader of the BJP, was there in our studio and was speaking to Mumbai Tak a while back. He accepted one fact. He said that it was all finally, if he wouldn't have made those allegations, the BJP would not have been managed to come to power in Maharashtra, and that is the reason why the BJP is in power today, and that's why the political adjustments needed to be done, and that's why we are accepting the people against whom he himself had made allegations in last
So let Sanju Verma respond to what you're saying. Both you and Anand Dubey making the point that, this tod-phod ki rajniti is not going down well with the Aam Aadmi. The normal voter is not very happy with all these adjustments because he's fought the NCP. Suddenly you say Ajit Pawar is your guy, or the Congress NCP voters fought the Shiv Sena, and suddenly you say Eknath Shinde is your guy.
Rahul, I need to make some points without being heckled. First and foremost, I think anybody who has even this much of a knowledge about Maharashtra political landscape will agree that, like in any region, the party symbol is very, very important. More so in a place like Maharashtra, where people easily identify with party symbol. Candidate baad mein dekhenge, party symbol pehle dekhenge. Eknath Shinde today has the bow and arrow symbol, which earlier was the विरासत ऑफ उद्धव ठाकरे. तो उद्धव ठाकरे ने बाला साहब ठाकरे की विरासत की धज्जियां उड़ा दी. The bow and arrow symbol is today with the BJP Shinde, Eknath Shinde faction. Second, the famous clock, which was a symbol of Sharad Pawar's party. Sharad Pawar lost the clock symbol, and by the Election Commission, and this has been upheld by the Supreme Court, he has now been given, a man blowing a tutari, that we call in Marathi, man blowing a turra. म्यूजिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट. तो क्लॉक सिंबल भी चले गया है. तो पहला पॉइंट ये है दैट द क्लॉक सिंबल के वोटर्स एंड बो एंड एरो सिंबल के वोटर्स, ये आज ना शरद पवार के साथ है ना उद्धव ठाकरे के साथ. दे आर विद द बीजेपी, फडणवीस एंड एकनाथ शिंदे फैक्शन. द सेकंड पॉइंट एंड वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट व्हिच योर कोलीग Sahil Joshi should be able to corroborate. You cannot win assembly elections in Maharashtra or Lok Sabha elections in Maharashtra until and unless you have dominant presence in North Maharashtra. North Maharashtra accounts for 36 assembly seats out of the 288 assembly seats in Maharashtra, but it accounts for 27% of the Lok Sabha seats, which means 12 से 13 Lok Sabha seats सिर्फ North Maharashtra से आती हैं.
Okay, so let Sanjay Kumar, give
me 10 seconds, Rahul. I'm just finishing my point.
Okay.
So why is North Maharashtra going to, be a huge positive surprise for the BJP and will give nightmares to the opposition? Because in North Maharashtra, the two important regions, today we have Anil Bhaidas Patil, the Bahubali of Jalgaon with us. He crossed over from Sharad Pawar. And we have the erstwhile Home Minister of the Mahavikas Aghadi government, Dilip Valse Patil from Ambegaon, a 7-time MLA from Ambegaon.
So now Sanjay Kumar, respond to this point about the symbols. The fact is that the symbol of both the Shiv Sena and the NCP, the original symbol, are with the breakaway factions. In a state when there are so many changes, how significant are these symbols in rural Maharashtra where literacy may not be as high or awareness may not be as high, but now we know that there is social media, Facebook, internet, everywhere. So how do you view the importance of past symbols, which in elections in the 70s, the 60s and the 80s used to be a very important factor?
Rahul, it is still an important factor. Symbols are still important, whether we are talking about Maharashtra, Bihar, Odisha or any other state. A very large number of Indian voters vote for the party. If I want to cite the number, roughly about 65 to 70% of the voters say they vote for the party. And when you probe further, what is that in the party which they vote for? Some of them even don't know the name of the party. They take the name of the symbol. So symbol is really very, very important. And the Eknath Shinde group definitely will benefit because of the symbol which has gone to them. And the Ajit Pawar faction will also benefit. Benefit means I'm saying, whatever may be, if suppose situation would have been that the clock symbol would have remained with Sharad Pawar, it would have made a huge difference. So symbol is really very important, and I agree with what Sanju Verma has said.
So with that amount of time on this conversation, there are frankly no clear-cut answers. There are theories, the pundits have their theories, the netas have their theories, the pollsters are all confused, but we will only know on the 4th of June what happened.
Theory, Rahul. You don't want to believe what the BJP is saying. There is no theory. All the Bahubalis are with us. Latur, Marathwada, Vidarbha, Jogeshwari, Mumbai, Northwest. इसमें बचा क्या है? कांग्रेस की धज्जियां उड़ चुकी हैं. Sharad Pawar is no longer the wily Bahubalis king.
We leave it to the voters of Maharashtra to decide who they think needs to be voted to power and who they want to keep out of power.